Hi, thanks for joining. I'm Jan Edwards. This is Inspired Moment Messages, my channel where everything is authentic, raw, not planned, not rehearsed, not regurgitated, not from a structured template. I never know what I'm going to say. It's just what I feel called to say in the moment, and wherever that goes is where it goes. So I've been called to share on the subject of boundaries. And what I know is that from birth, most of us, if not all of us in the human realm, are conditioned, programmed, taught, and told not to be ourselves. We are trained to people please. We are taught that our feelings and thoughts and abilities and perceptions and desires and needs and inner knowings are not important, or they're weird, or they're not accepted, or we don't show them in public, or we don't talk about them, or we don't know what we're talking about, or we're selfish if we talk about them or voice them. And that what's more important is to say please and thank you, and listen to what the other person's saying, serve the other person, not be selfish, pay attention all the time to what others are doing and saying and wanting. See where we can be helpful, see where we can serve others. Dress like others, act like others, talk like others. And by others, I mean, not everyone, of course, but whatever section or group or nationality or ethnicity or community or family that those people who are telling us this want us to regard. And this is not so true of the generations that have been born in the last 20 years and that are being born now and who will be born in the future, because the consciousness has shifted and awakened and expanded so much in the last 20 years and will continue, that this is not going to really be a problem for those people who are, I don't know, maybe under 25. But for those of us who are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and above, this is something that we have experienced. And so going back to boundaries, boundaries are not even a concept that is even talked about or needed from the time we come out of the womb into the world, because it's something that's man-made. It's a concept that we have been told finally later, decades later in our lives, that is missing in us. And the reason that it's missing is because of all the conditioning and the training and the programming and the telling and the teaching, that we are from birth slowly losing who we are. We are losing knowledge of who we are. We are losing a sense of who we are. We are losing the identification and the knowing that comes with us at birth into this beingness in this earthly plane that came from the spirit plane. We lose the connection with what's true for us, with where we came from, with what we were before we came here, with what we know. And in that losing over the years, it continues eventually to the point where our realization and our knowing and our awareness and our connection and our love and our joy in knowing who we are, and our power and our gifts and our abilities and our talents that come from knowing who we are and being who we are, they slowly disintegrate. So that by the time we come to a point later in our adult life when we realize that we have been at the mercy of others who don't respect our boundaries, we're forced, or we're not forced, but those of us who are on the path of an continued enlightenment, evolution, awakening, and self-discovery and self-actualization, we finally come to the point where we have to look into, what is this boundary thing all about, and why did I blur mine in the beginning? When did that start? How did that start? Why am I having conflicts, arguments, breakups, and suffering at the cost of others? And it's because of boundaries. And here's the thing. If we have lost our boundaries for knowing when to say yes when we want to say yes, and knowing when to say no when we want to say no, we didn't even know that we lost ourselves. We didn't even know when the time came when the us, the you, the me, the real essence of who you truly are, became so enmeshed into the fiber of others around us that we didn't know where we ended and they began. And not only that, but those of you who call yourselves empath or sensitives or have suffered any kind of abuse, whether it's verbal, physical, emotional, sexual, or any other kind of abuse, it wasn't safe to know and to be who we were. And we learned at a very young age to feel the energy in the room. Without anyone really telling us to, we learned how to read a room. We didn't even know that that was a learning. We just knew that we could do it. And some of us who were really sensitive didn't even want to go into public places or crowded rooms or rooms with people who were of such diversity and varieties and differences from who we were that it felt so uncomfortable we couldn't go into the room. Or we went into the room and then we proceeded to have 2 or 3 drinks so that we could numb our awareness of everything that we felt. Feeling others' feelings, feeling others' thoughts, feeling others' perceptions, because we read the room so well. We didn't want to be uncomfortable. So we numbed ourselves with alcohol or pot or whatever else. So this whole thing about boundaries is really being able to know that, no, it's not your fault that you lost your boundaries, that you lost your sense of self, but you did create the experiences in your reality over your lifetime that cause the chaos and the arguments and the situations where people crossed your boundaries. Unknowingly, you created those. So with you not knowing who you really are, because you weren't allowed to focus on that, you weren't making it clear to anyone that you became connected with, whether it's a friend or a family member or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a teacher or even a child. You didn't completely authentically present yourself because you said yes when you really wanted to say no, and you said no when you really wanted to say yes. And you accepted others' behaviors when you didn't really want to, because you were you were trained to do that. And you saw little red flags, but you pushed them under the rug, or you felt slight tinges of discomfort or kind of like warnings like, ooh, I don't like what that person did, but I'm not going to tell that person that because I don't want them to not be friends with me, or because I kind of did something like that before too. And so I don't want to feel bad about what I did. So I want them to know that I understand why they did what they did and I don't have any judgment. So they can just lie and cheat and steal and shit all over me and not be authentic. But as long as I don't ruffle the waters, or as long as that person is still in a relationship with me and I have the safety of having that person in my life, I'm just going to overlook it. I'm just going to open my heart. I'm just going to tiptoe around them. I'm just going to put them on a pedestal. I'm going to serve them and make sure they feel okay over and above me feeling okay. Because bottom line, I'm afraid to lose people in my life, right? Because I was taught from a very young age that it's really important to have friends and family and people around you who care about you and who will like you and who accept you. So act like this, talk like this, don't do that, do this. So the boundaries are really about you, us, becoming committed to the journey of knowing who we really are. It's a brand new journey for most people, or a lot of people. It's a new journey of being willing to be what others might call selfish and getting to know who you really are, what your preferences are, what you don't like, what you don't want, what you do want, what you value, what you don't value, what you honor, what you don't honor, how you want to feel, how you don't want to feel. And the more you get to know yourself on that journey of self-discovery, the easier it will be to see the boundary between where you are and where others are. And the easier it will be to say your truth, to say no when you want to say no, to say, hey, I'm not feeling good with what you just told me that you did. I still care about you, but I just want you to know that that doesn't feel good to me. And so I don't really want to talk about that. I don't want to get into the discussion with you about that. I don't want to engage with you about that. And maybe it's an opportunity for you, to take a look at that and see how that feels for you, knowing that you did that or that you said that. As we get to know ourselves and we get to know our boundaries and we get braver and more courageous in saying our truth and what we want, what we feel and what we don't want, and what we're going to participate in and what we're not going to participate in, the arguments and the competitions and the suffering and the situations where people have walked all over you, or they have lied to you, or they are distorting something in your relationship, the less those kinds of things will happen, because you just won't be playing in that realm anymore. You just won't be participating in that anymore. The clearer you get, the stronger you get, the stronger your vibration gets, the stronger your frequency gets, the stronger in your self knowing gets, the stronger in your self love gets. And as all that gets stronger and higher in frequency, you'll notice that the situations and the people that start coming into your life are completely different. Get ready for the new. Get ready for the you. That's all I have to say. If you'd like to know more about me or work with me in ghostwriting, editing, access consciousness, or intuitive life guidance, my information is in the description box below. I wish you a beautiful day. Get on the journey.